Gemara had cited a machlokes, quoted a Mishnah, Rebbe Lezer and Rebbe Yeshua. Okay, we'll start from this. It says, we had a question. The Mishnah says that you need tefillah for kodesh, not for truma. So the Gemara had to show that what does tefillah mean? Tefillah without erev shemesh, right? It was a question. The rabbinic, normally on a Torah level, whenever you have to immerse yourself in the mikveh, you have to wait till nightfall to be fully pure. But in regard to rabbinic contamination, the Gemara shows for the Mishnah, it's not necessary because it also says tefillah. So the inference that tefillah means without erev shemesh, without waiting for nightfall, because they're all rabbinical. So the Gemara says our Mishnah is not going like Rebbe Lezer. Ditnan, and that's what we're saying. Shveres shechotchu lechatos. You had a tube which was cut for chatos, for the paraduma. Let's say to hold the water, to hold the ash. Rebbe Lezer yitbol miyad. Rebbe Lezer says you told it immediately. Meaning, now we had said yesterday, normally for any kochim, if you're contaminated, you have to wait until nightfall. Mikvah is not enough. Paraduma on a Torah level is the exception. You just need tefillah. Even though nightfall hasn't yet come, that means even though he's full yom, the nightfall, he's qualified to do the paraduma. Okay? The tzdukim, the Sadducees, they held, they go according to the text. The Torah says you have to wait till nightfall. So the tzdukim waited till nightfall. So we went out of our way to show regarding paraduma that you don't have to wait till nightfall. Excuse me. That you don't have to wait till nightfall. Okay? So therefore, anything that would be related to paraduma and tefillah, immediate after was used, but the person had to appreciate that it was contaminated. If there's no reason to put it in the mikveh, right? I mean, despite the fact it's contaminated, it was put in the mikveh. Nevertheless, you don't wait for nightfall to disprove what their position of the tzdukim. Okay? So listen to the story. You had this tube. He was cutting this tube. Shechot lechatos. Rebbe Lezer omer yitbol miyad. Rebbe Lezer says immediately you have to immerse it in the mikveh. Rebbe Yeshua no. Rebbe Yeshua says no. Yitmo v'achach yido. First you take a sheretz, put it to the tube, and then you put it in the mikveh. V'avinim bo. So now they ask the question: why do you have to be told it? How did it become contaminated? What's the question? Man. Right? Chotcha man. Who's the one who cut it originally? Ilem chotcha chover. If the one who actually cut it was a chaver, meaning he's a person who maintains all the laws of spiritual purity to the nth degree. Lamli tefillah, it's pure. El od chot chamoritz, and amoritz touched it, so the amoritz contaminates rabbinically. Behol lemer Reb Yeshua yitmo v'yitbol. So if the amoritz actually made the tube, cut the tube, so what does Reb Yeshua say? You have to take a sheretz, put it to the tube. It's already tomei. It already was in contact with contamination. Hotomei v'koi, it's already tomei. So what did Rabbi Shila, Omer Rav Masna, Omer Shmuel, what did they add? Lo lam d'chotcha chaver. Chaver originally, he's the one who cut it. So why does it need umishum tinor damoritz? Some saliva of the amoritz rabbinically contaminates the saliva of an amoritz. The nofal fell on the tube. So the nofal amos. When did it fall? Ilema mikami litchotcha. If it fell on it before it had the status of a kli, halav mono. It's not a kli. So it's not susceptible to contamination. So what do you have to be told of it? It never became contaminated because it's not a kli. Ela bosa d'chotcha. So what is it afterwards? Mizazor, but it's not possible because a chaver is extra careful. He would not let an amoritz come near it. So how did the saliva of the amoritz go on this tube? Lo mikami. Factually, the saliva went on it before it was a kli. So therefore, the chaver doesn't have to be careful because it only contaminates a kli, right? So what's the question? And then after subsequently, he took that material and he cut it into a tube. He made it into a kli. So what's the question? Maybe when he cut it, the saliva was sufficiently moist that it still retained the status of saliva. So therefore, it's an exceptional chumrah d'Rabbanan. Exceptional. So Mar says like this: Bishlam Rabbi Yeshua, Hainu dika kerul tzdukim. According to Rabbi Yeshua says, you know what you do? You take a sheretz, you put it to the tube, then you tovel it, and you use the tube immediately afterwards. So what does that clearly show you? It shows you clearly that you don't need erev shemesh, because if a sheretz touches something, nor anything, you want to use it. When does it become totally pure? After nightfall. But yet this tube, you put the sheretz to it, immediately after you take it out of the mikveh, they use it immediately. So that clearly disproves the position of the tzdukim, of the Sadducees. Titnan? Good. They were saying even we take it, even though we contaminate it on a Torah level. Parah Aduma on a Torah level does not need nightfall. But to show it to such an extent, take the most extreme case, and it still doesn't need tefillah, right? As it says, they would go out of the way to contaminate the Kohen who was involved in the Parah Aduma. Meaning, why? The man's Torah. Why? Because they want to show, even though he's Tomei, he'll go to the mikveh, come out, and he'll officiate. To show that Tzdukim, that position is an incorrect position. Lahotzi Mishel Tzdukim, Shoy Omrim. What did the Tzdukim say? Shoy Omrim. B'muvri Shem Shoy Sanasis. That the Parah Aduma you'd have to wait only after nightfall. So we're showing no. We contaminate the Kohen, goes to the mikveh, comes out, immediately officiates. To show you don't have to wait for nightfall. Only the Parah Aduma. Only the Parah Aduma. Elo Rebbe Lezer, but the question is according to Rebbe Lezer, if you say for every rabbinic contamination you need Herav Shemesh, so then we have a proof over here by the tube that you don't need Herav Shemesh, right? Our original question was, do you need Herav Shemesh for rabbinical contamination? That was our question. So we want to prove from here that you do. Because if you never needed it, how does this prove that the Parah Aduma doesn't need Herav Shemesh? We want to bring a proof. Rabbi Yeshua says, after you cut the tube, you immediately immerse it and use it. By Parah Aduma, right? But that's true by every rabbinical contamination. You never have to wait for nightfall. So how did that prove, right? How does that prove that what? How does that disprove the position of the tzdukim? If you tell me, see, Rabbi Les says you don't have to touch it with a sheretz. If you touch it with a sheretz, of course, that would show the tzdukim that they're wrong. Right? Because we're dealing with a Torah contamination. A sheretz touches it. Rav Shua says it's not necessary to take a sheretz. Immediately after you cut it, put it in the mikveh, take it out immediately. So how does that show? How does it show that tzdukim, the position is baseless? If you say every rabbinical contamination needs Erev Shemesh, and this does not, so that proves that tzdukim, we disagree with the tzdukim. But if you say every rabbinical contamination, whether it's truma or kochim, whatever it is, anything, as soon as you take it out of the mikveh, you could use it for whatever you want. So how does that disprove the position of tzdukim for Parah Aduma? Doesn't disprove it. Right? You follow what I'm saying? Howard, you shaking your head? Yeah. Okay? You ever see what's the name? A pain, a weather pain. Just goes. That's the way Howard said shakes. That's what I want to know. Does he understand or is he just shaking his head? Okay. You know, it's like the rooster on the weather vane. Okay? He doesn't say cock-a-doodle-doo, this rooster. Okay? Okay. So how does that disprove the tzdukim? So evidently, what must we say? That all rabbinic contamination needs Erev Shemesh. So why doesn't this one need Erev Shemesh? To disprove the tzdukim, that what? That you don't Erev Shemesh by Parah Aduma. But if you say every rabbinical contamination, for truma, for kochim, for every, never needs Erev Shemesh. So how does that disprove the position of tzdukim by Parah Aduma? It's true even by truma and by kochim, right? So if you say it normally needs Erev Shemesh or rabbinical contamination, you go to mikveh, you still have to wait for nightfall. So why over here don't you have to wait for nightfall? Regarding this rabbinic contamination. Evidently, because Parah Aduma doesn't need Erev Shemesh. So hainu dika ke'erul tzdukim eli am rabbi amolobin and Erev Shemesh. But if you say better rabbinical contamination, you never have to wait for nightfall ever. Maya ke'erul tzdukim. How do we disprove this? How do we show that Parah Aduma doesn't need Erev Shemesh? You know what they're going to say? You know why you don't need Erev Shemesh? Because it's only rabbinical. Rabbinical contamination never needs Erev Shemesh. No. Rebbe Lezer says you don't have to. Rebbe Shua says you have to contaminate with a sheretz. Rebbe Lezer says it's not necessary. It's not necessary. You don't have to. Because the amoritz, saliva touched it, you put it in the mikveh, use it right away. So if you say normally, let's say for regular kochim, you don't need Erev Shemesh, so that would prove, and Parah Aduma, you don't need Erev Shemesh, so that would prove that tzdukim, we disagree with the position of tzdukim. But if you're saying, in that same case, the saliva and amoritz went on a plate, you put it in the mikveh, as soon as you take it out, you could serve a steak of shlomim on it, right? So what does that say about rabbinical contamination? There you never need Erev Shemesh. Because whether it's Shlomim, whether it's Paraduma, whether it's Chatos, whether it's Truma, it's not a problem. Right? No. That's our question. We're trying to prove that point. If you say it normally means Erev Shemesh, so then it's very good what the proof would be by Rebbe Lezer says, just put it in the mikveh, use it immediately. So you have a proof. Normal rabbinic contaminant needs Erev Shemesh. This you don't. But we ask the question, but maybe all rabbinical contaminant never needs Erev Shemesh. If that is the case, so then we have a problem with Rebbe Lezer. How does Rebbe Lezer prove that the tzdukim, that we disagree with the position of the tzdukim? Right? Omar Rav, so Rav answers, Asur Ketomi Sheretz. Here, saying interesting. What's the halacha if a sheretz touches something? A sheretz is classified as avatuma. That's the source. So let's say a sheretz touches a vessel. So what is the vessel? Rishon. You put food in the vessel, the food becomes contaminated. Why? Because regarding food, a rishon makes a sheni, right? So rabbinical contamination. Let's say you have a vessel that was tamei. Let's say the saliva of an amoritz falls on a vessel. And now you want to put kochim in that vessel. That vessel will not contaminate it. Only the vessel is contaminated. It will not contaminate the food. Yeah? There's the whole... No, because it's not a bona fide avatuma. It's a rabbinical avatuma. Right? Let's say you put chulin. Let's say you put chulin. Let's say you put chulin in that vessel. Would it become tummy? No, it will not become tummy. But the saliva is the av. It contaminated the vessel. A vessel always makes a sheni. It doesn't. For when it comes to chulin or other things, it doesn't make it into. It's not. It doesn't become contaminated. For paradum, it does. We treat it as if a sheretz touched it. So if that's the case, so already has a semblance. It's different than all other rabbinical contaminations, right? I'll tell you, all other rabbinical contaminations does not need Erev Shemesh. But this, where we see we're more stringent. Regarding paradum, we're much more stringent. We treat it like a doraisa. Of course, we're saying there's an av, there's a rishon, there's a sheni. So now we have a question. So we're treating it like the doraisa. Why doesn't it need Erev Shemesh? So therefore, it's a proof, not like the tzdukim. You following? See, if you say unilaterally, we'll say we want to disprove that tzdukim paradum does not need Erev Shemesh. That's what we want to show. But if you say all rabbinical contamination doesn't need Erev Shemesh, there's no proof. So we'll say no, all rabbinical contamination doesn't need Erev Shemesh. But all rabbinical contamination we don't treat with the stringencies of a Torah contamination. Doesn't make a rishon and a sheni. Paraduma, though it's rabbinical, it does make a rishon and a sheni. It does. So if we're treating it like a Torah contamination, it should need Erev Shemesh rabbinically. Right? Rabbinic, it should need Erev Shemesh. But yet we don't. So why don't we? If we treat it different, which we see the Tumah regarding Paradum, we treat different than all the other rabbinical contamination. Why? Because there's a Rishon and a Sheni. By all the rabbinical contamination, there's no Rishon and Sheni. Right? It will not contaminate food. Here it does. The saliva touches the kli, the vessel touches the food, it's contaminated. So we're treating it like a doraisa. We're treating it like a doraisa. So why don't you wait till nightfall? The answer is because paraduma doesn't need nightfall. So therefore, we're openly showing we don't agree with the tzdukim. That's the proof. Okay, wait. Somewhere asks, elamiata lo sitame odom. If that's the case, it shouldn't contaminate. It should not contaminate a person. If a person touches a vessel, right? Does he become contaminated? Doesn't. Alomatanya chodcho madbilo. Ton tefillah. It says the one who actually makes the tube for the paraduma, right? He himself has to go to the mikveh. But if we're saying they only gave it as the status of a vessel that touched a sheretz, if a sheretz touches a vessel, we're saying we're treating the tube as if a sheretz touched it, right? So it's different than all of the rabbinical contaminations, right? So therefore, So what is the tube? The tube is a rishon. Let's say a real share. Doesn't. No, we said no. We said speaking about saliva of an amoritz fell on it before when it was just the material. So the same background. And now we have a question. It may have been still moist when he turned it into a vessel. Okay? So he says that's why you have to be tovel it. Okay, but if you want before you tovel it, it's a rishon and a sheni, right? We treat it as if a sheretz touched it, right? That's what we're treating it. Correct? Wait, so that's the question. If we're treating it as if a sheretz touched the vessel, so why the person, when he touches it, well, it says in the Mishnah, quoting the Mishnah, the Bryce, he has to go to the mikveh. If we're treating it like a kli that touched the sheretz, if in truth, a sheretz would touch a vessel, and then a person would touch the vessel, is he contaminated? No. Only a person who contaminated, he has to touch the source of contamination. He has to touch the sheretz. So that's the Gemara's question. If we're only treating the kli regarding the that had to do with the saliva of the amoritz as a vessel touched the sheretz, so why does it say in the Brisa that the person who actually touches it, he's contaminated? A rishon doesn't contaminate a person. Mordechai. If we're saying how we treating the vessel, we're saying like a sheretz touched it. So if a sheretz touches, if truthfully a sheretz would touch a vessel, and a person would touch it, is he contaminated? What would you say? A person, if he touches the source of contamination, but yet it says in the Brisa that the one who makes this tube, after he becomes tamei. How does he become tamei? It can't be any better, any worse than a vessel that touches a sheretz. So you see, evidently they gave it a greater stringency. It's much more than it touching a sheretz. So what happens if a vessel touches a person, a corpse? A corpse is avi avosatuma. It's the ultimate. So what does the vessel become? The vessel becomes an avatuma. So if the person touches it, he becomes contaminated. So that's what Mer says. Helping it. So more alters it a little bit. El also katami mes. They treat the vessel as if it came in contact with the dead. So therefore, what is the vessel? Avatuma. Avatuma. Wait a second. No. Gemara says we treat it like katomi mes. Yeah. Ihochi dibahazo shlishi shvi. If we treat it as if it came in contact with the dead, so the vessel itself, it's not enough to put in the mikveh. You have to sprinkle the paraduma on the third and the seventh day. We're saying you put it in the mikveh, you take it out, you can use the vessel. How could you use it? You have to wait. You have to sprinkle on third and seventh day the paraduma. Here it seems to be mikveh is enough by itself. Correct? We're talking about the nature of the rabbinical contamination. We're saying the nature of rabbinical contamination by paraduma is unique. Much more serious than any other. You know what it is? It's as if it touched the corpse itself. So it says, if it touched the corpse itself, how's the mikveh sufficient? In addition to mikveh, you need sprinkling on the third and seventh day of the paraduma. It doesn't say that. It says it's enough, put it in the mikveh, take it out and use it. What about the hazor, the sprinkling of the paraduma on the third and seventh day? So evidently, it's not correct. Right? So, let's say a vessel, a vessel is in a room with his corpse. That vessel, before you can put it in the mikveh, you count 3 days. On the third day, you sprinkle the paraduma. Count another 4 days. On the seventh day, you sprinkle again, and then you put it in the mikveh. But if you put it in the mikveh before that, it's meaningless. So that's the Gemara. But it says we're saying rabbinically, what's the nature of contamination of the vessel? As if it came in contact with a corpse. But then it needs sprinkle on the third and seventh day. It says it's enough just to put it in the mikveh. So evidently they did it. The rabbinical contamination is not like it came in contact with a corpse. It's less than that, because we see mikveh is sufficient. Right? Good. Somewhere says alomatanyo chotrum abila ton tefila tefila ein hazor shlishi shvilo. It says tefila sufficient without the sprinkling on the third and seventh day. Ella somewhere again has to alter it. We're modifying it. Asu k'tomi mes b'shvi shlo. It's speaking about a tummy mess. We treat it like some came in contact with the dead, and it has already a sprinkling on the third and seventh day, and it's after we gave it the nature of contamination after the second sprinkling before you put it in the mikveh. Okay, so, but why is it before you put it in the mikveh? A vessel comes out with the dead, sprinkled the third and seventh day, and somebody touches it before you put it in the mikveh. Is the person contaminated from that vessel? The answer is yes, because the vessel is an avatuma. So that's what we're talking about over here. We gave the vessel, which has relevance to paraduma, of the vessel is after it was sprinkled on the third and seventh day, before it was put in the mikveh. Therefore, it says in the Brisa that the one who actually cut the vessel, he also has to go to the mikveh, right? Because he touched the vessel, which is an avatuma. Avatuma contaminates a person because it was contaminated from what? From the corpse itself. But this is all rabbinical. Yes, not the mikveh, not the mikveh, to use it. You put it in the mikveh before nightfall. But you can only use it after nightfall, which is the 8th. That's standard. But since this is rabbinical, right, but since we're saying we want to disprove the tzdukim, you use it immediately on the 7th day when you take it out of the mikveh. So what does that say? It tells you that even though it needs Erev, normally something would need Erev Shemesh, paraduma does not need Erev Shemesh. So therefore, it disproves the position of the tzdukim. Good, Howard. Okay. Your head is shaking differently now. Now I understand. You understand it. No, seriously. Now you're getting it. Yes. Okay, Baruch Hashem. When he goes like this, I know. When he goes, yes, now I know he gets it. I'm reading his body language. Okay. No, it's not simple subject matter. You have to understand it. So, it's a question. So it comes out, it's a tremendous chidush. Yeah. We're introducing a new type of rabbinical contamination, which is not true by all other contaminations. He said, Vatan, you learned in the Brisa, Me'olam lo chichu davar b'pora. It says, they never introduced a new kind of contamination regarding paraduma. We just spoke. All other rabbinical contaminations doesn't make a second and a third. Here it does. And normally it doesn't contaminate a person. Here it does contaminate a person. So we see all new innovations. And within the Bryce it says they did not legislate any novel type of contamination regarding paraduma. Arba'ya no. Shlo omru kurdim betame moshev. No. What they said was, we have to remember medrash. Person is a zav, has a flow. He sits on a chair. What does the chair become? The chair becomes an avatuma. Right? He has a shoe. Since the shoe is normally, you walk in the shoe, he steps on it, the shoe becomes an avatuma. What about a person takes a basket, which is normally used for storing fruits and vegetables? And he goes and he turns it upside down, he sits on it. Does the basket, he's using it as a chair, does it become contaminated? The answer is no. Why? Because it's not something which is used for a chair. He's innovating, turns it upside down to use it as a chair. 2 seconds. Hello? The way he's using, he may be using it as a chair, but what is it? It's not a chair. It's not a location for sitting. So the chiddush is, it doesn't become contaminated. Something that's a moshav, which is meant to sit on, or to lie on, or to walk on, then it's medrash. But something which is not, but you chose to turn it over, use it as that, it doesn't become contaminated, although you sat on it. Right? No, if he touches it, it's only a rishon. This becomes an avatuma. He said it's an avatuma. It's a rishon. That's a rishon. Because he is an av. The zav is an av. An av makes a rishon. So what he touches is rishon. What he sits on, there's a chiddush. Where he sits, where he lies, what he stands on, that becomes an avatuma. Yeah, no, because the strap was part of a shoe. Exactly. Okay, so let's see. So it says over there, it says in the hayoshev ala kli. Somebody sits on a vessel. A vessel is not meant to be sat on. Yochel kofa saw v'yoshev. He takes a basket which has a saw, which you normally store wheat in there. Tarkiv Yoshev or a smaller basket, and he sits on it. Maybe it should be Tomei. When is he? If he sits on the vessel that he sits on, Mishim Yuchad L'Shiva. If it's something which is designating for sitting, that's its purpose, that's its function, it becomes an avatuma. Person wants to sit on an axe, right? On an axe, a toolbox. Toolbox is not something. They say, "Excuse me, could you please get up? We have to get to work here." So since it's not, so that they would never say by paraduma. You can't innovate something which even on a Torah level doesn't exist. Here, it does exist on a Torah level. If actually it came in contact with the dead, and it was on the last day after the third sprinkling, the second sprinkling, what is it? It's still an avatuma. So if you touch it, you come. Innovating means innovating something which we don't find on a Torah level. So that would be the case of what? Sitting on a basket. They would say for paradum, that's tomei, that they couldn't do. That they wouldn't do. Because even on a Torah level, there's no such thing. Okay? Hakli mitzarv mashem socho. The Mishnah says that if you have a kli for kochim, right? It's mitzarv mashem socho. 1 second. Efo's that? L'kodesh. Remember we had a case. Normally, let's say I have 3 kazesim, 4 kazesim, 4, right? Separate pieces of meat, and they're in a vessel. And somebody's tummy touches one of them. And they're all touching one another. What happens? Normally, you'd say, the first is a rishon, makes a sheni, the sheni makes a shlishi by kochim, and the fourth is revi. Okay? Wait. Without a vessel. Let's say they be not contained within the vessel. So then it's 1 touches 2, 2 touches 3, okay? But the Mishnah says, but if it's in a vessel, we see all 4 pieces as if they're 1 piece. So when he touches 1, it's like he touched every one of them. Every bit of every one of them, okay? That's called the kli's mitzarif. The kli combines them. How do we know that? Menani mili. Amr Rav Chonon Domakar kaf achas asor katoris mlei katoris. We find by the Nesiim, it says there was a cup. It was asor of it. Its weight was 10 in gold. It was filled with katoris. Okay? What's katoris? Katoris is particles of incense. So we're talking with multiple particles. And yes, it calls it achas. We see the multiple, endless particles in the cup as one. So from there we see that the kli combines them, that you see them as one entity. Okay, so we see by Kodesh, if it's within a kli, the kli is mitzarif. Osa kosav kol mashe b'kaf achas. Moser Rav Kana asks, Hosiv Rabbi Akiva hasoles v'aktores halavona v'agacholim, that he added, if you have flour, you have incense, you have lavona, other kind of spice, or coals. Shimnoga tful yom b'miktzoso, that if a tful yom, a person went to the mikveh, he didn't, and it was pre-nightfall, and he touches any one of these things, which all this is kodesh. No, it says even he touches part of it, they all become porcelain kulo. But and over there, what are we taught? It's not in the kli. It's not in the kli, right? No. It's gone. It's gone. Right? On that he answers, Hodrabonani. No, he says no comparison. What we're talking about is a doraisa. That halach over there, it's purely drabanan. It's drabanan. How do you know? Says Reb Shimon Meseira says that a person whose tummy touches part of the efa pori, contaminates all of it. What's ash? Ash is separate; it's particles. So why, when you have a heap of ash, you touches part of it, they all become tummy. What do they all become tummy? So we see it's rabbinical, right? Rabbinically, you see it all as one entity. Uktani Hosiv Rabbi Akiva. It says he added. Fishaklim mitzarfen yachbo edus from drabonim miduktani reisha al efa chatos vare al koch drabonon the mikra durabchonon lekol amelfa kochim mizbeach al efa parol. He's asking a very good question. We're talking about the kli. When we learn out from kaf achas meleis ketoris, what do you do with ketoris? You sacrifice it. So you see from there that whatever's contained within the cup, you say is one entity. What about efa poro? Do you put that on the mizbeach? You can't draw from that more than what it says. Something which you sacrifice, if it's in the kli, you see it as one entity. But how do you draw from that if you have ash in a vessel, that you see all the ash is one. That's something you sacrifice. Eva Parah you don't sacrifice. Eva is the ash of the paraduma. You don't sacrifice. So evidently, you know what the answer is? It's Rabbanon. That we say by the Ketores, by the Nisim, that you see all the incense in the cup as one entity, that's a Doraisa, because incense is something which you sacrifice. But the ash of the paraduma, which you don't sacrifice, so why should the vessel combine it, consolidate it like it's one? The answer is it's a takeoff. It's not a Doraisa, it's Rabbanon. You following? Meaning, let's No, we're saying that's all rabbinical. It's all rabbinical. That's what we're saying. It's all rabbinical. If, let's say, you have 2 slabs of meat that I'm going to sacrifice to the mizbeach, or kachim that has to be eaten, or let's say it has to be sacrificed, make it simple, and now I touch 1 piece of meat, it's like you touched all the meat. Why? Because that's similar to the ketores. But ash, what is the ash? The ash is sprinkling on a person that was contaminated. So it has no relevance. There the Kli consolidates it. Here the Kli doesn't consolidate it. You know what the answer is? It's purely rabbinic. It's a rabbinic fence. Because just as over there on the Torah level, something you sacrifice, the Kli consolidates it. Here, rabbinically, it consolidates it. That's what the Gemara is saying. It's purely rabbinical. Omrei shlokish mishum bakarporo lo nitzcha l'shori mincha doraisa. Yeah. Meaning, Elishur Mincha Doraisa. When he says, it says, Reb Kiva added cases, he says, Hasolas. You know what the Solas is speaking of? We're not talking about just ordinary flour that was consecrated. It was the Shuri Mincha. What's a Mincha? The Kohen takes a palmful, sacrifices it. What do you do with the flour that's left over? You eat it. So that was part of a korban. That's Hosef. You would think it's only what goes on the Mizbeach, but he's telling you, no. Elis soles shel shori mincha. 1 second. Mincha doraiso sorach l'kli. Kli mitzvah shein sorach kli. Meaning, elis shori mincha doraiso sorach l'kli akli mitzarfo. Yeah. Shein sorach kli. It's kli mitzarfo. Meaning, something that the esher paraduma doesn't need a kli. Doesn't need a kli. The flour that was left over doesn't need a kli. Right? Initially, it needs a kli, right? But after you sacrifice the, what's his name? The kli has no relevance any longer. It happens to be stored in the vessel. It's not part of the service. You store coals in the kli. The coals that you can use on the mizbeach. There's no halacha. It has to be in a vessel, right? Initially, when you take the palmful, it has to be in the kli sharis. It has to be in the ministering vessel. So that's where the Torah says. That's where it consolidates it. Although it doesn't need a vessel, kol kli mitzarfo. So tenach solas k'torsa mincha. Tenach sol, that's very good. That's solas, which is left over from the korban. Ktores levona meikel lemeimat. Where do we see they need a kli? To be continued. Okay.